Tonight, the accused identified in a criminal case that has shaken Canada's game and the NHL. Lawyers for 4 more players who represented Canada on the 2018 World Junior team say their clients have been charged with sexual assault.
You don't want to see that in your pharmaceutical sector.
A new deal on prescription drugs sparks concern about competition, costs, and access.
I'm appalled, I'm still shocked and shaken.
Reaction from patients and provinces after Ottawa delays the expansion of medically assisted dying for mental illness.
This, I think, has a very good purpose.
Plus, Elon Musk's company, Neuralink, plants a brain chip in its first human subject. And ship to shore.
You don't see this every day in a lifetime.
A mysterious wreck washes up on Newfoundland's coast.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. There is a significant development tonight in the case of 5 former Canadian World Junior hockey players. Lawyers for Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, Michael McLeod, and Cal Foote confirmed the NHL players face sexual assault charges. They're currently on leave from their clubs. Former Ottawa Sens player Alex Formenton, on leave from a Swiss team, turned himself in to police in London, Ontario over the weekend. And joining us now is TSN senior correspondent Rick Westhead, who has been working his sources on this story. And Rick, the 4 remaining players are expected to turn themselves in before Monday ahead of that news conference by London police. What are the next steps?
Well, in the short term, the players, again, are going to have to go to the police station and be processed, have their fingerprints taken, have their photographs taken, sign an undertaking to stay away from and not contact the complainant in this case. Longer term, it's going to take a while to get some answers in this case. I've had a chance to talk to lawyers who specialize in sexual assault cases in Ontario, and they say because of the backlog in the courts, it's unlikely that this case is going to go to trial before 2026.
2026. And, you know, a lot of people have been asking, these are allegations that date back all the way to 2018. We are now in 2024, so nearly 6 years. What has taken this long?
And that's a great question, and I think it's going to be one of the questions that's asked repeatedly on Monday at the press conference the London police are holding. Remember, the woman in this case, who's referred to as EM in court documents, alleges that she went to police in the days after this alleged assault and that police closed the investigation in February 2019 without laying any charges. So we need to know what happened between then and now. Why did the police decide to reopen the case? And I think one of the answers for that is because of intense public pressure and journalism that brought this story to the public's attention.
Still so many questions ahead. Rick Westhead, thank you so much for your insight and perspective tonight. Appreciate it. Skate Canada says it's considering appealing a decision by the International Skating Union to award the Russian figure skating team bronze despite a doping disqualification. Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva tested positive for banned substance 6 weeks before the 2022 Beijing Olympics. Yesterday, word that she was getting a 4-year doping ban going back to December 2021. Canada placed 4th at the Games. And while it was thought it would get bumped up to bronze as a result of the findings, Russia still finished 1 point ahead of Canada, meaning it's still retaining a medal, but not gold. More information tonight about that murder-for-hire plot we told you about yesterday, which the U.S. Department of Justice says began in Iran, included 2 Canadians connected to the Hells Angels, and involved a plot to kill 2 others in Maryland. CTV's Adrian Gobriel on the alleged criminal web.
An alleged international murder-for-hire hit that reads like a Hollywood script. A plan crafted in Iran, orchestrated from Canada, only to be foiled by the U.S. Department of Justice. According to the indictment, the hit was planned by Iranian national Naji Sharifi Zindashti. The U.S. Attorney's Office claims his criminal network targets Iranian dissidents and opposition activists for kidnapping and assassination at the direction of the Iranian regime. Zindashti allegedly hired Canadian Hells Angels member Damian Ryan, who in turn hired Canadian Adam Pearson to kill a man and a woman living in Maryland.
Anyone speaking out is literally putting not just their own lives at risk, but the lives of their family members back home.
Ontario Conservative MPP Goldie Gamari is the first woman of Iranian descent to hold elected office in Canada. She's calling on Ottawa to add Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard to Canada's list of terror organizations in an effort to freeze the flow of funding into the country.
They fund, train, and arm Hamas. They fund, train, and arm Hezbollah. They fund, train, and arm Houthis.
According to U.S. officials, the IRGC also fund and help arm hitmen in North America. Ryan, who grew up in BC, is a full-patch member of the Hells Angels. He's already in custody in Manitoba.
These are full-patch Hells Angels. They have committed themselves to criminal activity with the Hells Angels, and they are willing to carry out whatever is required of them.
The alleged conspiracy took place between December 2020 and March 2021. The Department of Justice report states that Pearson told Ryan he would encourage gunmen to shoot the victim in the head a lot to make an example, and that they gotta erase his head from his torso. The indictment adds that a total of $350,000 was promised as payment for the job. A retired RCMP superintendent believes Canada has become a playground for foreign criminal organizations.
We used to say organized police, disorganized criminals. Today it's organized multinational criminal organization and disorganized law enforcement.
Stateside, the FBI are now actively involved in the investigation. They say they're receiving assistance from both CSIS and the RCMP. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. The inquest into Canada's worst mass stabbing is in its last leg after 2 weeks of emotional testimony. Joyce Burns had a tumultuous relationship with Miles Sanderson, her daughter's ex-husband and the man behind the massacre.
I don't want my grandkids to go down that road. And then maybe that's why I'm here. Because I just about died twice. And I told my husband I didn't want to go with him.
Her husband was among 11 people Sanderson stabbed to death at James Smith Cree Nation in September 2022. He later died in police custody. Now 6 jurors are deliberating on recommendations to prevent similar tragedies. The rate of violent crimes involving guns in Canada is at its highest level since 2009. Almost 3% of all crimes reported in 2022 involved a firearm. That's 14,000 violent crimes, 1,400 more than the year before. Ontario and New Brunswick saw the biggest increases, followed by BC. 5 Canadians are among 19 people facing charges in a major international drug bust. The joint investigation between the RCMP and the FBI, dubbed Operation Dead Hand, resulted in a massive haul of hundreds of kilograms of cocaine and other drugs worth up to $28 million U.S. The U.S. Department of Justice says the 5 Canadian suspects are linked to a criminal network that employed Canadian truckers to traffic drugs from Mexico across North America. A New Brunswick widow is sharing her heartbreaking story tonight about the dangers of an aggressive form of strep on the rise across Canada. CTV's Sarah Plowman on the warning she hopes will spare other families the pain she has suffered.
Family is everything to the Wetmores. Their loss still a shock.
My husband had no idea. He thought he had the flu.
For about 11 days, Dan Wetmore was sick. A sore throat at first, but after 8 days, he was vomiting, had body aches, and lost his voice. He didn't want to go to the hospital, but eventually called 911. He was rushed in, treated, and tested right away.
And within no time, someone came in and said Strep A.
His infection was invasive. Sent to ICU, Wetmore did not recover and died hours later. His wife is now urging Canadians, don't wait if you're sick.
People need to be checked.
While Strep A could mean strep throat or other common and often mild diseases, it can also become more serious and invasive. Canada's Public Health Agency says it received 4,800 samples of invasive Group A streptococcus last year, a record. So far this year, the agency has received nearly 400 samples. While still rare, it's becoming more common.
It gets into the deeper tissue, or it gets into the bloodstream. It can cause very significant illness, and people can get very, very sick very, very quickly.
Wetmore's husband, also a father, was a friend to many, especially for his role at the grill at Moncton's Farmers Market.
He loved people, and that's why so many people are reaching out to us.
And Wetmore told me today she hopes her message to not wait reaches others. Omar.
All right, Sarah, thank you. Canada's plan to make assisted dying available to those with mental illness is facing opposition tonight from most provinces and territories. They want the decision put off indefinitely instead of the delay Ottawa has announced. Here's CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin.
That was in Uganda, I think.
To award-winning journalist John Scully, news of another delay to the expansion of medical aid in dying is devastating.
It changes the course of my life dramatically, and for the worse. We were lined up by an execution squad.
Scully reported from 70 countries, bearing witness to war and devastation. He was diagnosed with severe depression, PTSD, 4 decades ago.
This is a daily dose of my pills. I wake up shivering, screaming, sweating, saying, God, no, make it stop. And that's why I was wanting MAID, to give me the option to have a stop point, to have a stop sign. But I don't have that anymore.
7 territories and provinces, including Ontario and BC, are pushing for the delay Ottawa announced yesterday to be an indefinite pause, saying in a letter to the health minister that further federal, provincial, territorial collaboration was necessary.
Some of them are, their position is that they don't ever want this to occur. Mental suffering and physical suffering have equivalency. The question here is a state of readiness.
On Monday, a special committee concluded the healthcare system is not prepared for the change, an opinion shared by a group of 8 heads of psychiatry departments across the country.
At this time, we are not able to differentiate between who is going to get better over time versus who's not going to get better.
Scully says he now sees no future for MAID for the mentally ill in Canada.
What they're saying is we don't have the guts to pass this thing, and it's never going to pass.
Some suggest a new timeline should wait until after the next federal election so that there's time for a national debate. But the health minister said today the timing will depend solely on whether the healthcare system is ready or not. Omar.
All right, Geneviève, thank you. The federal ethics watchdog is ruling out an investigation into Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's latest vacation to Jamaica.
There's absolutely nothing here. He went there. It's a friendship, a long-term friendship. It's clear by all of his statement, all the verification we did.
The opposition was pushing for a review into a Christmas holiday gifted to Trudeau by an individual the ethics commissioner concluded was a family friend. Canada is sending another $40 million to aid organizations in the Gaza Strip after suspending funding to the United Nations Relief Agency for Palestinians. The UN has launched an investigation into several employees suspected of being involved in the October 7th Hamas attack. Here's CTV's Judy Trin.
UNRWA, the central lifeline for more than 2 million Palestinians in Gaza, is hobbled as 9 nations, including Canada and the agency's 2 biggest donors, the US and Germany, suspend contributions.
It's a distraction from preventing an entire population from access to clean water, food, shelter.
Canada is hitting pause on $75 million to the agency that was to go out over the next 3 years. The United Nations is investigating evidence provided by Israel that 12 UNRWA workers were involved in the October 7th attacks. Canada's former ambassador to Israel says it's not a surprise that some workers are linked to Hamas.
For UNRWA to be able to do its work, delivering health, social assistance, and education, it has to work with the government and it has to work with the people.
The financial crisis is happening as Israeli troops, disguised as medics and a woman, entered a hospital in the West Bank to hunt down militants.
It's a war crime. You're not allowed to dress up as a Red Cross worker or a doctor or a journalist and then launch attacks.
Israel says Hamas uses hospitals as human shields. Shame, shame. All adding to the anger in Muslim and Arab communities. Last night, the Prime Minister was heckled as he left an event marking the 7th anniversary of the Quebec mosque shooting. Today, the government announced new money to help Palestinians through different aid agencies.
This additional $40 million is going to go to the World Food Program, UNICEF, World Health Organization.
Liberal MP Salma Zaid urged the federal government to restore all funding to UNRWA.
Those people who have been involved should be penalized, but we should not penalize the people living in Gaza.
UNRWA has a $1.1 billion budget. With these funding freezes, the agency says it won't have enough money to operate beyond February. Omar.
All right, Judy, thank you. Coming up,
Here is it's a sign of things to come.
A high-profile partnership on prescription drugs sparks backlash. $12,000 people at UPS are losing their jobs. The shipping giant says the cuts will save the company $1 billion. It's not yet clear if any of the company's 13,000 Canadian employees are impacted. And Canadian pipeline giant Enbridge is cutting 650 jobs in response to what it says are increasingly challenging business conditions. One of Canada's largest insurance companies and pharmacy chains have joined forces, raising questions about competition and patient access. Under the deal, Manulife's coverage of certain specialty drugs will only apply to Loblaw-owned pharmacies such as Shoppers Drug Mart. CTV's Heather Wright on the potential side effects.
Medications that treat conditions like arthritis, Crohn's, and cancer are expensive. And for those with insurance coverage from Manulife, they will now only be covered if filled at a Loblaw-owned pharmacy.
Is it Jane?
For independent pharmacists like Mohammed Masood, it signals another shift away from personalized patient care.
They now have to go to a completely different pharmacy, a completely different pharmacist that, though they may be well trained, does not have the holistic picture that we have.
The deal between Manulife and Loblaw is known as a preferred pharmacy network arrangement. Essentially, insurers get a better price on medication in exchange for exclusive rights to dispense it. And while some of the 260 medications included in this agreement were already restricted in terms of where they could be filled, Masood says smaller and independent pharmacies
2%.
should have been brought into the process.
If they wanted to improve competition and they wanted to come down on price, they could have come to every independent pharmacy and said, hey, look, this is the price we're willing to pay for a drug. You want to dispense it, you can dispense it. You want to leave it, we'll send them somewhere else.
Manulife says the deal will provide more options for patients, with prescriptions available for pickup in store or by delivery. While Loblaw, which owns Shoppers Drug Mart, says the company expects the experience for patients will remain unchanged, if not better.
The consolidation of the pharmacy retail business means less choice for Canadians. It'll start looking a lot like our telecom industry, where really we don't have much choice and we pay fairly high prices. You don't want to see that in your pharmaceutical sector.
This deal will not apply in Quebec, where rules prevent preferred pharmacy networks, but there are access concerns for those in small and rural communities that might not have a Loblaw's own pharmacy nearby. Omar.
All right, Heather, thank you. Still ahead, Neuralink embeds its first brain chip in a human. The coin-sized technology with huge implications for people with paralysis. The brash billionaire typically associated with social media platform X and Tesla has revealed the first human has received a brain chip from Neuralink. The company he co-founded is working on linking the nervous system to computers to overcome brain injuries. CTV's Joy Malbin explains.
From electric cars to rockets in outer space, billionaire Elon Musk also pushing the boundaries of medicine. Announcing his startup company Neuralink has surgically implanted a brain chip about the size of a coin inside a human. Musk says the patient is recovering well. Initial results show promising neuron spike detections. Those spikes are how neurons communicate to our brains and nervous systems. But Musk gives no details about the patient, the procedure, or the headline-grabbing device called telepathy. All we know about it is from this promotional video.
The device is designed to interpret your neural activity so you can operate a computer or a smartphone by simply thinking.
Neuroscientists are excited merging man and machine could give hope to those paralyzed from stroke, brain, or spinal cord injuries.
As a sci-fi fan, I love thinking about these things. For now, we are a long way from what I would call telepathy.
After years of controversial testing on animals, the FDA approved Neuralink to begin human trials in May. Here's what Musk said in 2019.
This, I think, has a very good purpose.
which is to cure important diseases.
Neuralink isn't the first. Swiss researchers helped this man walk again using artificial intelligence and brain and spine implants.
Neuralink it's a healthcare company. It's profit seeking. Obviously, if this technology works, Elon Musk stands to make a lot of money.
Getting Musk's medical device to market could take many years. Congress and experts warn more testing and research is needed to prove it's safe. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
There's sad news from the world of show business. A Broadway legend has died.
I like to be in America. Okay, by me in America.
Singer and dancer Chita Rivera first gained fame as Anita in the original production of West Side Story. She scored 10 Tony nominations, winning for The Rink and Kiss of the Spider Woman, along with the Lifetime Achievement Award. She was 91. After the break, a massive mystery washes ashore in Newfoundland. A couple of kayakers in distress were rescued by a passing cruise ship. The men were stranded off the coast of Mexico after their boat sank, and they had to jump in a kayak. Fortunately, the Carnival Jubilee was passing by and took them on board. Some pretty good timing. A sudden and mysterious marvel carrying stories of the past has appeared by a white sandy shore in Newfoundland's far west and has taken a small community by storm tonight. CTV's Garrett Barry traveled all the way to Cape Ray to capture the excitement around the enigma.
It's a secret of the ocean a small coastal community is trying to uncover.
I'm just interested to see how old it is. Never knows, it could be a ship that brought my ancestors here.
Wanda Blackmore's son found this mysterious wreck 10 days ago. Now, it seems like just about everyone's come down to this beach to have a look for themselves.
It's just a boat, but you don't see this every day in a lifetime. Not something this old.
Photographer Corey Purchase captured golden video that's now been shared around the world.
It's like discovering a ghost ship. When you're flying over, it's like you get this eerie feeling that, like, what happened when it went down?
Cape Ray has an important place in shipping history. Its lighthouse once guided boats safely into the Cabot Strait. Some here speculate that Hurricane Fiona in 2022 dredged up this boat, and people who live in this town now feel a big connection to the history.
Right now, these tides are working against archaeologists. This boat doesn't really reveal itself out of the water until after sun goes down. That's supposed to change by the weekend when the archaeology team hopes to arrive here in Cape Ray.
The ship is being battered by the waves, so today, locals tied 3 ropes onto the overturned hull. They hope that will be enough to keep it in place until experts arrive. Garrett Barry, CTV News, Cape Ray, Newfoundland and Labrador.
We will see what they uncover. Fascinating find. And that's a snapshot of this Tuesday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.